Alligators are native to only the United States, Mexico, and China. They are ferocious predators, and this is apparent from the first glance. Their armored skin and menacing jaws prove that these animals were tough enough to withstand multiple millennia of evolution, and then some. There aren't many other creatures brave enough to stand up to such intimidating reptiles. They're strong, fast, and merciless. Occasionally, however, alligators do clash with other species, and it's always an intense spectacle. A caiman is a species of alligator that's arguably even more menacing than any other. That's why this footage captured in Brazil's Pantanal wetlands is about as insane as it gets. When one jaguar was brave enough to go head-to-head with a caiman, it was all caught on camera, and the outcome left everyone stunned. Caimans are naturally terrified, just like their alligator cousins. Their scaly bodies and enormous jaws make for animals you would never want to come face-to-face with. One afternoon, however, a brave animal risked it all against a caiman. There aren't many animal species who dare face off with these intimidating reptiles. They are quick, powerful, and when they feel threatened, they're merciless. They have the ability to take down animals much larger than they are, and it's always a terrifying spectacle. One afternoon, a large caiman was basking in the sun on the shores of Brazil's Pantanal wetlands. He was keeping to himself, enjoying the warm weather and the peaceful setting. Little did he know, there was a creature not far away who wanted to pick a fight. From across the waterway, a jaguar was slowly wading the river. He kept just enough of his head above the surface so he could breathe. And he was stealthily making his way around the area, looking for his next meal. Jaguars and other large predatory cats spend significant amounts of time roaming the river beds in these particular wetlands because it's normally teeming with prey. Eventually, the jaguar reached the other side of the river, and that's when the trouble started. The jaguar slowly emerged from the water and began looking around the muddy banks to see if there were any smaller animals nearby that he could turn into his next. Unfortunately for him, the shores seemed to be quiet at the moment. The jaguar started to slowly roam the brush that was lining the river's edge. He knew he'd eventually come across something to eat. It was always a matter of time, but sometimes hunters like him had to wait much longer than they wanted to. As the jaguar made his way down the river, he stopped every so often to see if there were some fish he could snatch out of the water. If he weren't able to catch large prey, a fish would have at least held him over for a bit. Unfortunately, there were no fish for the picking. As soon as the jaguar came upon a large clearing, however, he stopped dead in his tracks. His gaze was suddenly fixated on something that was across the water from where he was lurking. His meal was waiting for him. There across the river were two caimans resting on the sandy shores. The jaguar stared at them intently and licked his lips. Little did the caimans know the big cat was about to slowly begin his stealthy attack. The jaguar gently waded back into the river and began paddling over to the shores where the caimans were. As soon as the jaguar started his approach, one of them swam away, but the other didn't budge. The jaguar's head was barely poking out of the water as he approached the reptile from behind. It's tough to see, but if you look closely, you can spot the top of the jaguar's head in the water on the left-hand side of this picture. Keep an eye on that small shape as he gets closer. The jaguar was taking as much time as he needed to reach the sandy shore without the caiman suspecting anything. If the reptile even had an inkling of suspicion, he would have dived into the safety of the water immediately. The jaguar was moving slowly, but he knew he had to if his surprise attack was to be a success. Out in the wetlands, animals are always prepared to escape from danger when it arises, and caimans are no different. Finally, after what seemed like an hour, the predator reached the mound of sand where the reptile was basking in the sun. Luckily, he'd gone unnoticed across the entire waterway. He stopped and surveyed the land, preparing for his attack. Ever so gently, he placed one paw in front of the other onto the sandy shore. Not only did he have to worry about the caiman and escaping, but he also needed to be wary of others in the area that were surrounding him. All of a sudden, the jaguar left from the water in a full-fledged ambush. He was on a mission to take down the reptile, and he intended to end his attack with a full belly and maybe a well-deserved stretch on the sand. Even though the jaguar was quick and strong, he was also cautious. The caimans were equally as dangerous, and if the big cat made one wrong move, the tables would have turned on him. How exactly was this battle going to unfold? Filming one jaguar wading across the river, only to watch as it suddenly jumps up and attacks a caiman must have been very confusing. It would be like if you were standing on a pier and a jaguar appeared from nowhere, popping out of the water to attack a caiman. Nature is full of intense confrontations like that of the caimans. It continues to surprise us with different species who won't back down.